We already talked about preparation. Not that there's much to deal with there. We just had to set up a couple of things. Now let's move on to where we can really use this topic. Identification. The function behind identification hasn't changed. We're still recognizing a series of events as malicious. Before, we were relying on the AI detection engines to do this for us, and we're not going to do that anymore. We're going to actually utilize deep visibility. Storyline automated response will come later, but right now we're going to talk more about how we're going to utilize deep visibility for this process. Identifying malicious activity really comes in a couple of steps. And if you're going to utilize deep visibility, first of all, you have to gain some sort of intelligence. That's not a joke. I'm not telling you to go out and get smarter. What I'm actually saying is what you need to go out and find some vulnerabilities or threats that you believe your network may have. Just finding that information is not good enough. You do need to go out and then change that over into some sort of searchable format. So it has to be intelligence that is actionable. Once you have some actionable intelligence, you can do some searches and find possibly some odd things going on your network. Once you find something odd on your network, you can utilize the storyline functionality to find all the related things that go with that. And then usually what you need to do is look through all of the storylines and see how they are related to one another. Obviously, you don't have to look through all of the storylines. You go through each as you find they are related to each other. So where can you obtain this intelligence? There's a lot of different places you can go. And I have some things that are listed here. Sometimes you're just looking at strange activity that happened on your network somewhere. Servers going slowly. There was an oddball window that popped up. You found out that there was a strange program that was installed, or you saw something happen on the screen you just didn't like. Alerts doesn't necessarily have to be our system that alerts you. Maybe there is some sort of firewall activity that alerts you that there might be something weird going on. You see activity moving throughout the network and you look at that and go, well, I don't like that. And so you want to check out based on the alert. Sometimes alerts can give you some sort of time frames. You know kind of when things were happening. So you have a time frame that you can look at and say, okay, well, I know on such and such a date between the minutes of 3:11 and 3:15, something strange happened. That's when the server rebooted. That's when the things slowed down. That's when the alert came in from some other location. I don't know exactly what happened, but I know something happened during that time frame. I need to go in there and look around, see what's going on. User comments. Do not underestimate the power of users, both to do things that are stupid and to do things that are actually really good. I've seen users come to me and say, you know, I have seen this work the same way every day that I've been here, and today it was different. And you go in and you investigate, and sure enough, there's something different with their system. They have new software. There's a problem with the way things are set up. Users can be very useful. So if you have a good relationship with your users and they call, that can be very good in alerting you to potential places where there are issues on your network. There are many tools. We will talk about a tool called Hunter that's actually shown here. And that tool allows you to translate things you find on the internet, say like on websites like the Talos Threat Advisory website, which is also here. You can take that and immediately make those actionable searches. So you're looking through the Talos website, you look at something and go, ooh, I wonder if that's on my network. You can use the Hunter tool to actually go and search for it. And of course, publications. We have one called Watchtower that goes through a lot of threat intelligence that's out there. It's a great tool that you can utilize and go through and look and see what's happening in the rest of the IT world, and then decide whether or not those things could be happening in your network. Other times, you don't really have a specific thing, or you have a vague understanding, or maybe you just have a time frame, like I said, and you're not sure what you're looking for. You're kind of going off of a hunch, and you just want to go and look. So what should you look for? Well, this has always been a unique question, because the answer is you look for what's weird in your network. But what's weird in your network may not be what's weird in everybody else's network, or maybe there's something that's specific about your network that is weird, and you have certain functionality and certain settings that make you unique and make either the presence of or possibly the absence of certain evidence would be either good or bad on your network. I realize that seems a little esoteric, but some people have things that others don't have, and that is normal for them. Some people don't have things that others have, and that is normal for them. And if those things were to appear or be the opposite of what they are at the moment, then that would mean trouble for those particular people. But there are certain things we can always pretty much look for, because attackers do work in specific ways. So, for example, new or changed registry keys. You're looking a lot for persistence. You could also look for the presence of specific files that change certain registry keys. And there's a lot of different things that you can look for. Right now, you're looking at the run once, which is, of course, the area where software will throw something to run the next time the machine boots up. Malware likes it because it allows you to persist from one run of the software to the next. You can look for odd logon accounts or logon attempts. And this goes beyond just saying, oh, somebody logged into this or logged into that. What happens if you've got specific people that only log into specific systems, and suddenly you realize that there's a new name that suddenly is logging into that system? Who is this new person? Why are they logging in when they didn't log in before? Is there a reason for this? Should be investigated. Maybe you have certain accounts certain admin accounts that go out to certain servers, and you suddenly find that admin account is going into lots of different servers. Why would one administrator suddenly need to log on to 87 different servers all at the same time? Unless there's some sort of network-wide maintenance going on, I would suggest that that's something you probably want to investigate. So, and of course, if you start seeing lots of failed logon attempts, then you might want to check out who is trying to get in and why do they continue to fail. New things on the network, like new files or new processes. This can be a huge indicator of what's going on. Files, look for specific types of files, such as maybe PS1 files. Those are going to be PowerShell scripts. If you didn't put it there, why is it there? What all systems are running PowerShell scripts? It'd be nice to know stuff like that. Processes that you might find unique, maybe like WMIC. If you start seeing WMIC running across your network and you as the administrative staff did not make that happen, you might want to start asking some serious questions about what's going on. Again, back to the time frame concept. You knew something changed between this time and that time. What new files were created? Were those new files created by a process that you recognize or not? What new processes were started during that time frame? Servers are especially nice in this respect because they generally run the same processes and have the same files for long periods of time. And then when something new happens, when there's a change, then that generally is what you're going to look at very closely, because that change is usually unexpected. New users, if you didn't put the user there, why is it there? I have seen both legitimate and malicious software add users, assign them to administrative rights, and then do things with that user, and then delete the user when they are done. And those kinds of actions you will look at very closely. Why did it do that? And understand what's going on. Unexpected remote access and execution. So what are you looking at here? RDP. If you don't use RDP, or you're a little concerned why somebody is RDPing into a machine, then you might want to look at that closely. But also things like PsExec. If you see PsExec running on your network and you're not doing it specifically as part of an administrative setting or tool set, then you might want to very closely examine packages along those lines. Network connections. Any sort of, back to the RDP thing, you start seeing weird 3389 connections from one place to another. But maybe you see strange connections between computers. In the example here, we've got computers A and B. Why would computer A talk to a computer B? Maybe they don't normally talk. What if those two machines are two accountants? Those two accountants' machines themselves don't communicate very often. They usually communicate up to the servers. They don't actually communicate with one another. So if you start seeing communication between machines that are kind of strange bedfellows, you might want to start investigating what's so important on machine B that machine A suddenly needs to access it. Seems kind of strange. Attackers, of course, are looking for ways to get through your network, and there will be strange traffic. And of course, what they're doing is they're looking for the fact that the user they managed to compromise has access to machines A and machines B. And so they're looking at machine B now to see what kind of information they get from that. Well, that actually has a different user on it, and that allows them to get to machine C and machine D. And eventually they go, checkerboard throughout the network until they find a machine that not only logs into what they normally log into, but they also have access to a database server or something else. And that movement around the network can be a clue when different machines begin communicating in strange places. Tasks are another place where attackers love to put things because, again, it's persistence. The machine shuts down, reboots, and comes back on, and a task will automatically restart their malware. So anytime there are new tasks and you don't recognize what they are, look at them very closely. Now, I did skip over MITRE indicators in the middle of the page here, and there is a reason why I skipped over that, and that's because many of the things I just discussed, the adding the things to the run once menu, or adding new users, or multiple failed logon attempts, or accessing a machine remotely, are all indicators of compromise across the board. And MITRE has pointed that out. And it might not be enough for the machine to be completely convicted of having a malicious action going on, but it would be at least enough to say, hey, this action, whatever it happens to be, can be associated with malware. And so something that we actually do is when we do see actions that could be associated with malware, we always create an indicator object. And sometimes it can be really nice to just go out and search for the indicators. And if you search for the indicators, now you're getting kind of like the cheat notes. Here's what the system saw that it looked a little weird. And we're going to go out and search for just the weird stuff. So once you find something weird, so you got all the events going on and you locate that one weird thing, look at the computer in the upper left-hand corner, that one is the one that's weird. Well, that's where Storyline helps you out. Because Storyline, we talked about briefly in the past, allows you to correlate all of the actions that go along with the weird one you just found. This is really nice because now you get to see what all happened around that. What are the related, files that got created, registry entries that got created, what processes are linked to this thing, what created what processes, and not only can you move forward through all of the records, but you can also move backwards through all the records. The moving backwards is the really big deal, because you can trace it from one storyline possibly to other related storylines. And eventually what you do is you get back to the first storyline. And that's really what you need to know. What happened first? How did the attacker manage to eventually get into the network? What did they do to get in? And once you find that information, then you have something you can really work with. So we're going to save some of that, especially the moving from storyline to storyline until we get to the eradication phase. But we are going to talk about in this demonstration a couple of helper queries. So we do offer some ways for you to get started with queries in the system. We'll talk about the Hunter product itself and how it creates searches. Then there will be most likely several videos talking about many different ways to find evil on the system using deep visibility. We'll go through a couple of things to show what kind of things you can look for and what results you can get from deep visibility. Finally, once we do that, we'll back off and we will use indicators, as I said at the last thing there, to go out and find malicious activity with the indicators. It's kind of the easy button, but it's good to know both ways, by doing it the normal way where you look for it yourself, or by using indicators, because not every time is there going to be an indicator for the malicious actions that are going out there. Maybe you have a situation where the attacker is living off the land and you are looking at something that would otherwise be legitimate, but because you know how your network works, you understand that you're looking at malicious activity.